Welcome back. We are on to the next conversation of the day. If you are a coffee lover, then you definitely know that 1st October was the International Coffee Day. But we want to take a look at where we are as a country in matters coffee farming. There's a time in Kenya where coffee was the leading foreign exchange earner, but where do we stand now? That is a question that we are going to be tackling today, and for that I am joined by the Chairman of the Kenya Coffee Producers Association, Mr. Peter Gikonyo. Welcome to the program. I want to get right in. Why is it important for us to even have this discussion before we take a look at where we are as a country in matters coffee growing? Why is it important?
Thank you, and good morning, viewers. My name is Peter Gikonyo. I'm the Chairman, Kenya Coffee Producers Association, which is an organization that deals with the advocacy and lobbying for the socio-economic well-being of Kenya coffee producers, all the coffee farmers in Kenya, so that they can also be able to reap the benefits of their work. Last week, or rather on 1st, we were celebrating the International Coffee Day. And why we were celebrating the International Coffee Day is to take cognizance that coffee is providing, or has been providing, the livelihood to over 800,000 households. And if you look at the theme was about coffee and supporting livelihood in terms of what if you look at from the value chain. We start from the coffee producer, we have the processing, we have the market, up to the cup. And all those people are getting their livelihood from the coffee. So that is one of the most critical things that has made us to celebrate. The other one was about when you look at coffee, it creates a lot of employment along the value chain. We have so many stakeholders in the coffee value chain, starting with the producer. We have the government as also a key stakeholder, because when we earn the foreign exchange, that goes to the government, or rather it supports the government activities. And finally, we also have the service providers who supports the coffee industry. So that is also something that made us also to feel that we are happy about coffee. And again, it provides that engagement that when you wake up every day, you have some engagement that you are focusing on. So the theme for this year was about looking at coffee through a 360-degree.
Okay.
Yes.
So now let us take a look at coffee having been the lead foreign exchange earner in Kenya back in the days in the 80s and the 90s, but currently it is ranked around number 4 after tea, horticulture and tourism. So why are we here? How did we get to this point?
Thank you. Why we are where we are is so many things have happened. True, coffee used to be the leading foreign exchange earner in Kenya, but currently it is no longer the case. But we can trace the reasons behind that. One is because there has been quite unpredictable prices of coffee over the years. Apart from the last few years where we could see the prices are good and a bit stable, previously they have been very much erratic, and that gave the reasons for the people who again used to have a big chunk of land in terms of estates, who are producing quite a huge amount of coffee. Then that was converted into real estate, because again every entrepreneur, including a coffee farmer who is looking at coffee as a business, he really needs to look at what is the income and what are the earnings that are coming into place. Therefore, that made a shift from the coffee production to the real estate. The other issue is because, again, other farmers who are smallholder farmers also abandoned the farming, and probably they also engage in other farming activities. Like, for example, there is the issue of avocado. People have actually ventured into avocado and also macadamia. So again, that has also contributed to the shrinking amount of coffee that is also being produced. And you see, when you look at the ranking in terms of even the foreign exchange earner, two things will have to come into place. One is the price, and also the amount of coffee that is being produced. So therefore you find that the ranking, because again of the production and also the erratic prices, have made coffee not to be in the position. But it is our hope that with the incoming of the new government, we are going to reclaim our position.
Okay.
Yes.
You've spoken about the inflation of the plantation where coffee was planted by real estates, and I believe these are areas like Muranga and Kiambu where we had coffee being grown, and now it has moved to areas like Nyanza. These are the lower altitude areas. So, but we have two types of coffee, that is Arabica and Robusta.
Yes.
So does it mean that we are now producing more of Robusta than Arabica, because now Arabica, the land is now being taken by real estate?
Well, we still produce quite amount of Arabica. Actually, the issue of Robusta, even if it is grown, it's not well. You cannot really well trace it into the marketplace because, as you know, maybe the areas of Busia, that is where you find Robusta. But generally speaking, the huge chunk of our coffee is actually Arabica. Now, we as the Kenyan farmers, one of the things that makes us proud of what we do, we may not be able to produce as much quantities like any other producing countries like Ethiopia and also Uganda, which is our neighboring country. But then our coffee is highly priced because of various attributes. You know, coffee, when coffee is being traded, what matters is actually the attributes that are in that coffee. So when coffee is being traded, then it is traded using samples. So you pick a sample, you analyze the sample, and you find that this coffee has what you are looking for. And therefore you are able to place your bet on that coffee. And so when this coffee comes to the market, there are coffees that would say this is a must-buy coffee, because of the quality that you are looking for and the market, the destination market. So for us, we take pride in terms of the quality that we produce. I would say from the engagement with the industry players and other people from within the region where coffee is grown, some of the growing countries really would want to get a chunk, just a small portion of the amount of coffee that the Kenya coffee is fetching. But unfortunately, because again of their processes that they use to process coffee and also produce coffee, then their coffees are not as highly priced as Kenyan coffee. Usually our Kenyan coffee is used for blending other coffees. And that is why sometimes you find it's a bit pricey, because it is going to be used to maybe upgrade other low quality coffee so that they are also able to get some good value in the market.
Okay. Yes. So by this, I'm getting to understand that our coffee is of high quality, the Arabica type. Yes. So other countries, because I saw somewhere that Brazil is one of these countries that actually mix our coffee, the Arabica, with theirs, which is Robusta, to make it better. So is this a good way that we are headed to? Because a country like Uganda mostly producing Robusta is making more profits than Kenya, where we have high quality, but the returns are not quite as much.
Well, when we look at the returns, we have to look at why are we not getting enough returns. We may be having some coffee that are fetching so high prices, but then when you look at the return that is getting to the producer, the return is a bit low. Why? Is one, because of the cost of production. The cost of production is a bit high in terms of, if you look at the farm inputs that the farmers are using to farm coffee, including fertilizers and other chemicals, also including labor. That is one of the contributions that is making our coffee farmers not really get as much as they are supposed to get. Not because the prices are not good, but because, again, what you have put in that particular coffee, vis-a-vis what you are getting, the margin is so thin. Again, if you look at the productivity, that is the production per a coffee tree, is also quite low, because you find on average is about 2 kilograms. And in other cases you find it's about 1.4 kilogram per coffee tree. So again, you look at, if you put that, you see that there are some costs that are almost fixed, that you will not do anything much to change them. And therefore, when you reduce, the amount of production is very low. Then it also means that the amount that is going to be retained by the farmer in the form of a return or the margin it also becomes very, very low. So, but then when you look at the global trade, if you compare Kenya and Brazil, Brazil is actually is the greatest producer of Arabica coffee. They also do quite a big chunk of Arabica coffee. Okay. But what makes the difference between our coffee and their coffee is the way coffee is processed.
So the processing bit.
The processing, and also where, you know, for coffee to get that taste, there are some attributes that they also get from the soil. Okay. Also, where coffee is grown, when it is grown in the right attitude, it therefore means during the bean formation, the beans are able to pick all those attributes that are coming from the soil and put it in the bean, and that makes it get the right value in terms of even the flavor and other notes that are attributable to coffee. So you find that even the way we are doing Kenya coffee is mostly a lot of coffee is wet processing, where we use a lot of water. But the others that are doing the naturals, or rather they just dry coffee, the coffee is not washed. So you find that there are people who are specifically interested in the coffee that goes the washing process, and therefore they rank that coffee higher than the other coffees. So you find that if you look at the amount of coffee that goes to per kilo, for example, if you compare with Brazil, maybe you find that Kenyan coffee is getting much higher in terms of the price as compared to other coffee. Yes. And therefore you find the value of a Kenyan coffee is good. But what I would now talk to the farmers to do is to increase that coffee production, that is a productivity per bush, so that then they're able to reap the benefit of the current market prices. Because the more you produce, the more you reduce some of the costs. Because there are costs that will not change because you have increased the production. Of course, there are some costs that will also increase with the production. But if you are, for example, it is putting manure or fertilizer, if you are used to, your farm is supposed to get 10 bags if you do what is recommended. Then you'll also find that even when you are doing the same, you'll also use the same 10 bags. So they will not increase because of the productivity. Okay. But it depends on how you are also doing the agronomic or other agronomic or activities in the farm to be able to get to the right quality and also the quantity.
So you're saying the solution is to actually, for the farmers to increase the production?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, and now matters the input, the high cost of the input that the farmers have to buy.
Yes.
So what is being done? Because I understand that there's the fertilizer subsidy, which you've said is, according to the media brief you gave, is one of the things that, good initiatives that have been made, but it's not sustainable. Yes. So speak on that.
It is true that we have seen a lot of government intervention in terms of supporting the coffee production for that matter. And again, if you look at the subsidies are not sustainable. So we need to look at a long-term solution so that then we can be able to have a sustainable farming that is giving farmers the good return that they are looking for. One of the issues that we need to look at is what fertilizers are we talking about? So we need to do a lot of soil analysis and also leaf analysis to understand what is happening with our soil, so that even as the government is providing subsidies, it should be able to provide subsidies geared towards the actual fertilizers that are relevant to coffee. Again, we also need to use a lot of technology. Why do we need to use technology? When the government provides maybe subsidy, for example, they are looking for like providing like 6 billion. So if you consider the Kenyan farmer, the proportion, not every coffee farmer will be able to access that subsidized fertilizer, and is still a producer. So you find that there could be people who are able to access that fertilizer when it is expensive and when it is not expensive, and there are people who will not even be able to access that fertilizer even when it is subsidized. So we are looking at how then do we know our Kenyan coffee farmer and what they need. So we need to use a lot of technology so that when the government is planning, we do like the coffee sensors, so that then we are able to know what is around under coffee, how many coffee bushes that we are talking about, what are the varieties. Then we also do like a soil sample in different regions, so that then we also understand what is the requirement of each area in terms of the fertilizer. So when the government is arranging that, it knows the number of farmers that requires the fertilizer, the area that is covered, and the trees that are required. So it can easily be able to compute the amount of fertilizer that is needed. And then the way it is going to be distributed to the actual farmers. And then from there, we can be able to even monitor the progress from the production. And that is now a process that you can be able to trace up to the market, up to the cap, to see then the value of the subsidies that the government is providing. Is it really translating into the income to the farmers? Because even now, as we are talking about good prices, there are still farmers that are not enjoying the good prices. Because if you are producing maybe less than a kilo per coffee bush, that for me is like what just God provided you with. You have not put in effort. And therefore you will not be able to reap the benefit of the time because you have not put some efforts. So for me, I would advocate where the government is able to come on board and is able to have an integrated system of all the coffee producing areas and all the coffee producers, so that then you can be able to know how much, when you talk about estates, what are these estates? How much are they producing? What is the number of acreage? And what is the number of trees? So that if there is any support the government is giving, be it to the estates, be it to the smallholder farmer,
they know exactly what is needed.
It is known, and you can always be able to attribute to the production and also the income back to the farmer.
Okay.
Yes.
And is there any other technology that has been adapted in the coffee sector?
One of the greatest challenges that we are currently facing is actually lack of research in coffee. Because previously we used to have the research, Kenya Research Foundation, which was now converted into Coffee Research Institute at Dakaro. Now what is happening is there is no sufficient funding for that particular institute. And therefore, even with the challenges that are also facing us of the weather, nothing is happening about whether we will be doing coffee in the next few years coming. Because you can see the trend that weather is no longer very much predictable. And if the process of research is not happening, so what is going to happen is some of the land that is currently under coffee will no longer be under coffee. Some of the coffees that are also producing currently, probably because of the vagaries of the weather, may no longer be productive. And therefore, we might find that people are going to abandon coffee, not because they want it, but because there are no interventions of maybe coming up with the new varieties that can quickly adapt to the changing weather patterns. We're also looking at other varieties that can also be used in areas that are also very dry, because these are things that we need to keep on looking at. So again, in terms of the technology, we would also want to look at an area where also we also deploying technology hubs, where farmers can be able to interact with the technology hubs with the challenges that they're also facing in their farms. You do not really need to have, with the technology, you not really need to have that agronomist coming to visit your farm unless now is, for example, there is an outbreak. There are technologies that you can be able to pick a leaf, take a snapshot of the leaf, and then you send it to them, and they're able to interpret probably what is happening with that particular leaf, including the berries. And therefore, if that happens, it will also now reduce the amount of resources that are required in terms of supporting agronomical skills. Now, before we get there, remember coffee is also devolved because it is under agriculture. And also most of coffee is also done through cooperatives. So we're also looking at the intervention. In the meantime, what can be done? Currently, the strategy or the policy is the need basis, that you get the services for the agronomist or from the agriculture office when you need it. But remember, previously it was the issue of training and following up. And that is why you used to find that the production of coffee was very high, because you are training somebody and you're also following up to see how they also implementing the training. That made farmers to be accustomed to a particular way of doing the same thing. So for now, because again, when the devolution came, and then there was a shift, immediate shift from now the train and follow to the demand-driven services, then there is a lapse. Again, we do not even have enough, those of the agronomists or the people who are providing those services in the various counties. So again, it is our request that the various counties that are growing coffee, and for your information, you have about 31 counties that are doing coffee in Kenya. So we are asking the county government together with the national government to come together, have a stakeholder interaction, understand each county's need, and then from a national perspective, we can have one common policy that can also be able to cascaded by different counties based on their specific needs. Right. That can also be able to bring sustainability of coffee production, and every coffee farmer will not be able to, we will not be looking for other activities, because coffee by itself will be enough to provide the livelihood of every household.
Okay. Yes. As we come to a close on this conversation, what is the importance of the involvement of cooperatives in Kenya, you know, in the coffee sector, in comparison to other countries where they can do direct trading? For me, cooperatives can still equally do the direct trading. Why cooperative is because cooperative is a vehicle that brings the peoples who are producing coffee together to be able to enjoy the economies of scale, by making sure that they're able to procure goods together and they're able to enjoy the benefit of price reduction. Then when there is also the issue of production, you know, you require a lot of machinery sometimes for coffee to be able to be processed, unless you are doing the natural coffees. And therefore that is the need for us to have the cooperative. So for me, the cooperative movement, or the cooperative, is not about bad outfit. If there are issues in a particular and a specific cooperatives, can we deal with a particular cooperative that has an issue? Okay. But let us not condemn the cooperatives and also the cooperative leaders because of issues that are happening. We have good cooperatives that are well run, and we also have challenges with other cooperatives. So let us not condemn everybody in terms of the leadership of cooperatives. And then we need to look at what is it that is contributing to the challenges of those who have challenges. So when it comes to actually the issue of marketing, as a small-scale producer, do you have enough coffee that is required? Assuming today you want to sell your coffee to US. So how many bags are they looking for? Maybe you require to have a full container. So where do you get a full container as a smallholder farmer who is just having maybe 500 coffee bushes? So there is that need of coming together to do that production, processing, and be able to prepare that coffee for that international market. So there is that need for people to understand that cooperative can still be able to venture into that international market, but also as a caution, remember in the value chain, we all have various stakeholders. If your core mandate is to do the production at the maximum that you can of the good quality, then deal with the issues of marketing. And what we are saying and what we are advocating for, can we also have some level of transparency in the market? Because you really do not have to be involved in every step, in every value chain to be able to reap the benefit. Okay. But if there is that level of transparency and traceability in whatever you are doing, you will be comfortable as a farmer, because you know, after all, this is the amount of money that I'm going to pay for the entire process. If you find that there is more value in doing that, then so be it. But if you find that there is more value for you to engage in the actual business of actually direct exporting, so be it. And remember, we already currently have two approaches, where we have the direct sale and we also have the auction. So it is a choice for the cooperatives to be able to get into those other avenues in the marketing. All right. But they need to understand in every value chain section that what does it involve. Otherwise, you might even find yourself that you're engaging in a business of selling when you are not very much aware about what it involves, and you might end up burning your fingers. Okay, what a great place to end this conversation. Thank you very much for shedding light on this particular area. Right. That has been Mr. Peter Gikonyo, the chairman of Kenya Coffee Producers Association, talking to us about the status of coffee farming in Kenya. I hope you have taken something from it. Then this is the place to end the program. On behalf of the team, we appreciate your company and enjoy the rest of your programming.